We have a variety of NHL news to talk about tonight. We're taking a look at some rumors around the Calgary Flames, a potential trade that we might see there, plus the latest on Sidney Crosby. We're looking at an article that explores the possibility of what if he doesn't sign in Pittsburgh, what could come next, what could it all lead to. We'll discuss that scenario. Plus, we have some big updates out of the Edmonton Oilers that could lead to Evander Kane maybe missing the start of the season. Big news out of Toronto. We have a change in captaincy coming. Lots of other news around the league, and we're also going to discuss a very interesting interview with Sens owner Michael Andlauer. All that and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a variety of NHL news, a little bit of rumors to take a look at here tonight. Lots of interesting topics to take a look at. Let's start with the big news of the day. There is a dedicated video on the channel earlier, so I won't go into as much of an in-depth analysis here as I did earlier, but we got big news tonight that the Maple Leafs have called a press conference for Wednesday afternoon. Late, I think it's actually right around lunchtime, 11, 12 o'clock on Wednesday. We'll be getting a press conference to introduce Auston Matthews as the 26th captain in team history. So they're going to be changing the captaincy from John Tavares to Auston Matthews. All reports indicate so far that Tavares has been involved in the discussions, was on board. So I know I see some people out there kind of breaking this news, saying that he's being stripped of the captaincy, and I guess theoretically he is, but I don't really think that the team is looking at it that way. It's kind of like a passing of the baton, or the passing of the the reins, if you will. Here, it's basically been Matthews' team, anyways. I think it's fair to say. I don't know if it's really going to do a whole lot at the end of the day. For this team to be better and have more playoff success, they need to make some changes on how they play. They got to find a way to score some goals when the big moments in the big games. That's where they struggled, and I don't really think having a C on one person's jersey versus another is really going to make that big of a difference. It's the same people, so it is important in a sense, like it's a changing of the guard. But obviously, a lot of people are speculating now. What does this mean for the future of JT with the Maple Leafs? He has 1 year left on his contract, has a full no move, so I don't expect him to leave or be traded or anything of that nature. I know we talked at great length in the earlier part of the offseason about potential big moves in Toronto, Tavares, Marner, what's it all, what's going to happen, what's it all mean, where are they going? And right now it looks like this is their big move, is the captaincy. But will Tavares be done after the current season, or will he possibly extend? I don't know if we'll get any clarity on that when the Leafs have this press conference. I would suspect Tavares, and I would think probably Matthews will be present as well. So obviously, we'll hopefully get some more clarity there. But I don't know. A lot of people think that Tavares might be done with the Leafs after this year, that maybe the Leafs will want to move on. And this is going to be like a 1 year of a transition, and then they'll have a whole new, maybe a new group of a core, because Marner's obviously a pending UFA too. Maybe this is going to be like a last dance season for the Leafs, and maybe the year after the team will look very different. Hard to say exactly, but big news. Let me know what you think, if it really is going to make a big difference for them or not moving forward. A few other notes around the league. Stanley Cup champion and current unrestricted free agent Nick Cousins is getting new representation. He's got a new agent. He's been changed agencies now rep by Craig Oster. So obviously not happy with his agent that he had previously. Still remains unsigned here well into August. That's not great. Tough to make plans to get your life situated when your training camps are getting underway, and what is it, about a month or so, and you don't even know where the heck you're playing. So I've seen some speculation about maybe the Leafs being interested, but I don't really know. I don't know if there's anything really concrete there. But yeah, Nick Cousins got new representation, so I suspect that maybe we could see a deal coming soon for him, but hard to say what is going to transpire, except for the fact that he was not happy with not getting a contract. The Calgary Flames have signed restricted free agent defenseman Yan Kuznetsov. He gets a 1 year, two-way deal, league minimum at the NHL. No big surprise there. Kuznetsov's been a decent prospect defenseman for the Flames, and he'll continue his development and see where things go for the coming year. Another piece of interesting news today was that Senators owner Michael Andlauer made an appearance on a podcast, the Coming In Hot podcast, hosted by Brent Wallace, Jason York, formerly Bobby Ryan, which is where the name came from, the Coming In Hot. He hasn't been part of the podcast now for a few months, but Wallace and York had a chance to speak with Andlauer at length for a variety of things, and he made some interesting comments. One, he went on to give a lot of praise to General Manager Steve Staios, and he thinks he's done an absolutely incredible job. Obviously, he said the whole best-in-class thing, he says that a lot. He wants everything that the way they do things, the way they operate, everything's best in class. That's what he wants to be, in the NHL, and certainly wants to make sure that his staff and everybody involved that works there gets the absolute best of everything to do their jobs to the best of their abilities. I know the previous regime there under Eugene Melnyk, it was like a resource-starving organization. So, that was a big focus of his this past year. He said it was pretty chaotic. He learned a lot. Learned how much he hated to lose. Obviously had a pretty good rapport with the players. He's a pretty hands-on owner, very much a big fan of the game as well, which is not a big surprise from seeing how long he had been involved in the NHL with the Montreal Canadiens as a minority owner previously as well. Certainly was not only giving great praise to Steve Staios, but said that he's kind of like a heroic type person, because a lot of people don't know, and I didn't know until today, that Steve Staios has had some stuff going on off the ice at home. Staios has been working hard trying to revamp the Senators to make them more successful and to change this roster. Meanwhile, his wife has been battling chemo, obviously going through chemotherapy. We don't know the exact condition she's dealing with, obviously likely some form of cancer, but it's can be a pretty serious thing, right? Obviously, it can be hard to focus when you have a major situation like that at home, somebody so close to you. So certainly, I want to give her thoughts to Staios, and I hope his wife pulls through and makes out fine. And like I said, we don't know the exact details of the condition, so it's hard to really comment further than that. But yeah, surprised to hear that. We didn't know. Also went on to say a bit about the new arena possibilities. Obviously, that was one of the big questions that anybody that's going to talk to the Sens owner is going to want to ask him. And certainly, he said he's optimistic that he's met with the NCCs recently as last week. Seems to say that they have a pretty good idea about what their fans need. Really put a big focus on the new arena being all about the fan experience. So obviously making sure, when it comes to like having ample parking available, the location and transportation, and just, it's all fan focused, which is really what you want to hear. That's great news. But at the same time, it sounds like they're not really as close to a deal as we might have been led to believe. He did make comments saying that, to be transparent, he says that the original deal was a bit of a window dressing, if you will, to kind of boost the value of the team to make sure that they get the best and biggest sale price possible. And that's not an exact quote. I'm just kind of going here, what he said, but that's multiple times that he's made comments based on how the sale process went. I don't think he's too happy with the ones that were representing the Melnyk estate and everything. I mean, look at how they were stripped of our first-round pick. He was led to believe during the process, he was told about that and was told that it really wasn't going to be that big a deal, wasn't expecting any kind of punishment. And here we are. So, clearly, I think it's fair to say that he was misled on multiple aspects of the sale and was kind of led on a little bit to kind of make sure they get that big dollar value. And that not only is to help the Melnyk estate and the Melnyk girls get the best sale possible, but when it comes to the league, they want to see that biggest number possible as well, because one team being sold affects the values of everybody else. So it certainly sounds like he's a very fan-focused owner, which is not surprising with what we had heard so far. New arena is still very much in the works, but to hear his comments about how it was kind of dressed up and kind of, made it sound like it was further along and, whatnot to kind of enhance the value of everything. Not really surprising, but unfortunate to hear. So it sounds like Ottawa's in good hands with Andlauer. Be interesting to see when they get further along in the developments of the new arena. Another big development that could come tomorrow could be a major update on the 2018 World Junior Championship sexual assault case of the 5 players that are awaiting trial. Of course, none of those players are currently in the NHL. None of them really have an NHL affiliation anymore. I mean, Alex Formenton, formerly of the Senators, has been out of the league for a couple of years now, and the other guys are all not qualified as restricted free agents, with Dylan Dubé, Carter Hart, Michael McLeod, and Cal Foote, all being, like I said, not qualified. They're all UFAs, so they don't. They're all former NHL players as of right now. But the big update that could come tomorrow, because there is a hearing in London, Ontario. The judge has been assigned to the case, and it's possible that we might actually get a trial date tomorrow. Not guaranteed, but it sounds like it's quite possible. The latest reporting from Rick Westhead of TSN had shared that information earlier today. That it sounds, we had actually heard a while back too, that middle of August would be right around the time that we would likely get a trial date. So at least we'll have a little bit more something to kind of go with on when we may know an outcome. I think the trial is expected to probably last a couple of months all in all. So we'll see. What we hear is probably going to be late next year, I think is what the estimation was, but we'll wait and see once that's official. News from the Edmonton Oilers or Bob Stauffer, obviously well-connected Oilers reporter. Stauffer is saying that there's a good chance that Evander Kane is going to have surgery and won't be ready to start the season. Now that news contradicts a different Oilers report that we've talked about here in recent days, and the sources there from the 2 Months podcast, they stand by their story that they were kind of given this information, and they kind of wonder if maybe those within the Oilers, the organization, are maybe pushing Kane to have this surgery. The reports were that Kane, the last reports from them saying that Kane was expected to be a part of the captain skates in September and to be ready to start the season. Now Stauffer is saying that's not looking like it's going to be the case. I think the reason that he was going to be expected would be that he wasn't going to be having surgery and that he was going to be healed up on his own, or at least enough to play this year. But obviously I think maybe there's some pressure internally for him to get the surgery. I mean, at the same time, I don't know the exact state of his condition, but what we saw him go through in the playoffs was tough, and they need him to be healthy. Like, he's an important part of that team, and if he's not going to be guaranteed to be 100%, and if he's, you might as well take the time, have the surgery, and then be ready to go at the most important time of year, I think. So it sounds like the Oilers need to make a trade and clear some space to start the season. Might not actually be there anymore, so we may have to delay a move in that sense, which is good for them. It gives them more time and flexibility. But Evander Kane, at this point, according to Stauffer, looking like he's going to go on LTIR after having surgery. So we'll see. Like I said, conflicting information coming out of there. But the other thing that Frank Saravalli talked about from the Oilers today as well, saying that he's hearing some updates on Leon Draisaitl's contract extension, and that the number is going to surprise you in a very positive way, that all indications are that Leon and Connor McDavid both want to extend long-term with the Edmonton Oilers, but more importantly, want to make sure that they leave enough availability in the cap for the team to be as strong as possible, to win as much as possible. They're more concerned about winning than they are about padding their pockets. So we could hopefully have good news on the Leon Draisaitl contract extension soon enough. So we'll see. A couple other rumors around the NHL. One, we have an article from the Hockey News suggesting a potential trade for the Calgary Flames and Andrei Kuzmenko. Kind of wondering if he really fits there. If you take a look at where the Flames are at with their retool, rebuild, whatever we're calling it in Calgary, obviously the team needs lots of changes and growth over the next few years to get back to being competitive. We know they're trying to be, adding a lot of youth and draft picks and prospects, trying to, obviously it's basically a rebuild. I'm not sure if they're officially calling it that, but I know that it really is a rebuild in Calgary. He's got 2 years left at $5.5 million. He is a one-dimensional player, but he can score. There's no doubt, in the right situation with the right line mates. I think in Vancouver, I think he kind of wore his welcome with Rick Tocchet, because he wouldn't forecheck as much and play more, between the forechecking and the defensive play. Those other aspects is kind of what drove him a little bit crazy, I think. Obviously, wondering if a team out there that needs goal scoring and might not, obviously care as much about those other aspects of the game, might be able to benefit from Kuzmenko on their roster. I don't know if Calgary would be willing to eat any money on that, but I mean, he has scored at a decent clip during his time in the NHL, so it's not like it's a complete bust here. Kind of makes sense. I mean, obviously the Flames need to have some veterans around. We've talked before about how Nazem Kadri is reportedly willing to look at certain options for a few teams if he were to get moved. Haven't heard much about Huberdeau or Uyghur. I know there was lots of interest. We had heard about Rasmus Anderson. I don't know if there's much appetite to move him or what his feelings are in the situation. But yeah, Calgary to trade Kuzmenko wouldn't be shocking. To be honest, I think it's something they should probably look at because, again, I do agree with the author of this article suggesting that, where does he really fit, and is he part of a long-term solution there? I don't know that he is. So if you can move him and get a half-decent return, why not do it? And Mark Madden, another Pittsburgh media member, looking at Crosby and the Penguins and playing the what if here. And I'll link this article in the pinned comment as well. But looking at, what if Crosby and the Penguins can't come to an agreement before the season starts? Kind of outlining the fact that, if Crosby doesn't sign, it's going to be a media circus around him until he does. Wondering as well, like we talked about yesterday or the day before, about Evgeny Malkin. There's a lot of rumors about him that he's got 2 years on his contract, but he's only going to play one and maybe go to the KHL. So we don't know if that's true. He denies it so far, but he's not going to come out and admit that if he is thinking about it. So we wonder if Crosby is factoring that in, and maybe that's kind of left him wondering, what do I do here? He kind of wonders. He says in the article he thinks that Crosby playing with Malkin is probably more important to Crosby than it is to Malkin. So again, we don't know if that's a factor here. We've heard that he doesn't know how long he wants to play. Does that mean overall, or does he want to even consider another team before he's retired? We don't know. Doesn't sound like it. But he does kind of talk about what we call the nuclear option here, saying, what if they don't come to terms and they kind of say, you know what, we're going to ride this out? It wouldn't be shocking if they came to that and said, we're not in a rush, we'll get it right, we're going to start the year, we're just going to see where it goes. He doesn't see the Penguins being a playoff team. I don't either. So if they get to the, later in the season and approaching the trade deadline and Crosby hasn't signed, could we see a Crosby blockbuster deal? Obviously, he's got trade protection. He would have to be okay with it and approve it, but they could get a big haul. He doesn't really think that Dubas and the Penguins should let Crosby walk as a UFA. If there's any chance it could get to that. And we don't know that. It's premature to say that. But again, this is just, him saying if he doesn't sign, you can't let him, leave for nothing, right? So the longer it drags on, unfortunately, the more real that could be. So is there any chance at all that Crosby and the Penguins don't come to terms? But like he went through the articles, can you imagine Crosby, especially as he hits a lot of the bigger markets, especially traveling through Canada, going through Toronto, Montreal, the reporters are going to be all over that saying, Sidney, what's going on with your contract? Is there any chance you could be, moving to a different team? Do you want to come home to Canada? It's going to be a circus around him. And that the reporters are going to be asking tons of questions. He's probably not going to want to answer. It's going to be a distraction. It's going to be frustrating. I don't know if that'll motivate him to get something done. But again, he's not going to want to get it done if he's not sure what he wants to do. And if that's the report, is that he really doesn't know how long he wants to sign for, could it be a chance that over time, as he thinks about it, the answer is zero, and that he decides, maybe I do want to move on? I don't know. I mean, we can't put words in his mouth, and we can't speak for him. But, that's what the article is kind of playing a devil's advocate here of what if? Is there a chance that could happen? Because if it does, and we get into the season without a Crosby extension, and it goes on and that the team's not doing well, it's just going to become a major story that's going to follow them around. Are they going to consider trading Crosby to get a big haul to help really kickstart the rebuild? It's hard to see that happening. It really is. But when I seen the article from Mark Madden, I thought we have to at least talk about it. I don't see it going there. I would not be shocked. My opinion is Crosby's going to sign an extension with the Penguins. before the season starts. It may drag on a little longer. Maybe we get to the beginning of training camp. But before the first game of the season, I think he'll get a deal done for 2 or 3 years, but I don't know. We'll see. I mean, to be honest, I think of Crosby, there's no harm in him signing because really, to be honest, if he, as a UFA, he calls a shot where he goes, right? He signs wherever he wants to play. Any team in the league would be happy to take him. So say no different. If he decides, if he's under contract and with Pittsburgh and he changes his mind and says, you know what, maybe I would like to go somewhere else, he can basically have the trade protection to call a shot and go where he wants anyway. So, there's going to be 31 other teams lining up to get Sidney Crosby if he's available. You know that. I mean, any team would be love to have this guy, and he can call his own shot and do what he wants. So at the end of the day, it would make for good drama and good entertainment for fans. Be a big story to follow, but it's hard to see it happening. But let me know. Is Mark Madden's article onto something? Is it possible we see this play out like that? Let me know what you think in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with all the news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.